You ever been in a moment where someone said something so cruel, so sharp, that it cut right through you, and you could feel your chest tighten, your jaw lock, your fists clench? And for a split second, you imagined firing back, giving them exactly what they deserved. That's the moment I'm talking about. That split second is the difference between owning your power and giving it away. Because here's the truth: anyone can react. Anyone can lash out. But the strongest people you will ever meet know how to stand in the fire without letting it burn them. When someone hurts you, they're expecting you to explode, to crumble, to lose control. They're baiting you. And the second you react, you confirm their power over you. You let them decide how you feel, how you think, and what you do. And if you give people that power, they will use it against you every single time. Strength is not in the punch you throw or the words you spit back. It's in the silence you choose. It's in that moment when you rise above instead of sinking to their level. Because reacting is easy, mastering yourself is rare. When you don't react, you send a message one louder than any words you could speak. You're saying, "I control me." You don't, and that terrifies people who thrive on your reaction. It disarms them. It forces them to face their own reflection without the distraction of your anger. See, a reaction is fuel. Without it, their fire dies out. And when you walk away without a word, you're not being weak. You're winning a battle they never even knew you were fighting. People will try to provoke you because they see something in you they can't touch. Maybe it's your confidence. Maybe it's your peace. Maybe it's the fact that you're unshakable. But understand this: every time you choose not to react, you're protecting something priceless. You're protecting your dignity, your energy, your mental clarity. And you're building a reputation not as someone who can be pushed around, but as someone who cannot be broken. The moment you react, you hand over the remote control to your emotions, and you give it to the very person who just hurt you. Think about that. You let them decide whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you lose your temper. And once they know they can push that button, they'll keep pressing it every single time they want to get to you. That's how you give away your power without even realizing it. You might think you're standing up for yourself by snapping back, but in reality, you're playing exactly the role they want you to play. Real strength is not letting someone else's words or actions dictate your mood. When you keep your composure, you're telling them, "You don't control me. You don't get to decide how I feel. You don't get to run my mind." That is power they cannot steal unless you hand it to them. Silence is not weakness. It's a weapon most people will never learn to use. When you choose silence instead of firing back, you shift the power dynamic instantly. Your lack of reaction forces them to sit in the discomfort of their own words. It makes them question themselves, and it denies them the satisfaction of seeing you break. People expect noise, they expect drama, they expect you to match their energy. But when you stay quiet, when you look them in the eye and give nothing, you become unpredictable, and unpredictable people are dangerous in the best way. Your silence says, "I'm not here to play your game, I'm here to end it." It's control disguised as calm, and it's often louder than anything you could ever say. When someone is trying to provoke you, what they're really doing is fishing for a reaction. They want fuel. They want you to snap so they can point the finger and say, "See, look at them." But when you give them nothing, no words, no expression, no shift in your energy, you cut off their supply. Without your reaction, their entire plan collapses. They can't feed off your anger, they can't twist your words, they can't use your emotions against you. And here's the thing: people who live to provoke others hate being ignored more than anything else, because it forces them to face themselves. When you disarm someone like that, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're showing them that their power over you never existed in the first place. Mastering self-control is one of the hardest skills you will ever learn in your life because it goes against your natural instinct. Your brain is wired for survival, and survival often means reacting fast, fight, flight, or freeze. The second someone hurts you, your body fires up like an alarm system. Your heart races, your breathing changes, adrenaline floods your system, and every part of you wants to respond right now. That's why almost everybody reacts. They hear something offensive, they see someone disrespect them, and without thinking, they fire back. It's reflex, it's automatic, and because it's automatic, it's easy. It takes zero discipline, zero thought, zero power. But that's also why it's so common anyone can do it. Now here's the difference. People who master self-control learn to override that reflex. They train themselves not to be driven by impulse but by intention. They pause, they think, they let the storm pass inside before they move a muscle on the outside. And that pause, that small space between stimulus and response, is where true strength lies. That's where you decide whether you're going to give them the reaction they want or take the victory they'll never see coming. And this is where most people get it wrong. They confuse silence with weakness. They think if you don't respond instantly, you're letting the other person win. No, you're letting yourself win because you are no longer a puppet with strings they can pull. You're the one holding the strings. And when you hold the strings, you decide when to move and when to stay still. That's why mastering self-control is rare. It requires you to be bigger than your emotions, bigger than the heat of the moment, bigger than your own ego screaming, hit back. Prove them wrong, show them you're strong. I'm telling you right now, ego is the enemy in moments like this. Ego will whisper that you have to defend yourself, that you can't let them have the last word, that if you don't speak up, people will think you're weak. But the truth is, your power doesn't come from proving anything to anyone. Your power comes from not needing to. It comes from knowing exactly who you are, so no insult, no criticism, no petty jab can shake that foundation. When you know yourself, you don't need to react to protect your image, because your image is already unshakable. Think about some of the most powerful people in history, not the loud ones who exploded at every insult, but the calm ones who could stare an enemy in the face and not flinch. Those are the people others fear and respect, not because they were the loudest in the room, but because they were the hardest to move. Their power came from the fact that no one could control their emotions, and that's exactly what mastering self-control does for you. It makes you untouchable. Let me break it down even more. Self-control is not just about keeping your mouth shut. It's about controlling your thoughts, your body language, your energy. Because people don't just hear your words, they read your face, your tone, your posture. If someone insults you and you stay silent, but your face twists in anger, you're still giving them a reaction. If your body tenses, your eyes glare, your breathing changes, they still know they got to you. True self-control means you train your entire presence to stay composed, neutral expression, steady breathing, relaxed posture, like nothing they said even landed. That level of control takes practice. It's not natural. It's built moment by moment, every time you choose not to react. And here's the beautiful part. You get stronger every time you do it. The first time you stop yourself from reacting, it's hard. You'll feel the heat inside you, and your mind will be screaming for release. But you hold it, you breathe. You let the moment pass, and when it's over, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't need to react to survive it. The second time, it's a little easier. The third time, even easier, until one day, you don't even feel the urge anymore. You've rewired yourself, And in that moment, you're not just avoiding giving away your power, you've completely taken it back. You want to know why mastering self-control is rare, because it forces you to fight the hardest battle of all, the one with yourself. It's not about the other person, it's about whether you can master your own impulses. Most people can't. They are slaves to their triggers. Someone pushes the right button, and they react every time. But the few who break that cycle become dangerous in the best way possible. You can't provoke them, you can't manipulate them, you can't pull them into a fight they didn't choose. And when someone realizes they can't control you, they lose interest in trying. I've been in situations where someone tried to humiliate me in front of a crowd, thinking I'd crumble. They wanted to see me flinch. They wanted me to raise my voice, to break my composure, to prove that they had the power to pull me out of my center. And I just stood there, looking them straight in the eye, completely calm. I said nothing. I didn't even blink. Do you know what happened? They started stumbling over their own words. Their voice got shaky. They looked around, waiting for the reaction that never came. And the more I gave them nothing, the smaller they became in that moment. That's the power of mastering self-control. It flips the entire script. Here's something most people don't realize. Your reaction is their reward. The more intense your reaction, the more they feel they've won. But when you give them nothing, you're robbing them of that reward. You're denying them the satisfaction. And not only that, you're making them carry the weight of their own words. When you react, you take some of that weight off them. You give them a distraction from their own behavior. But when you don't, they're left alone with what they did. And sometimes silence is the loudest form of accountability you can give. And I'm not saying you never defend yourself. I'm saying you choose how and when you respond, if you respond at all, because there's a big difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is instant, it's emotional, it's messy. Responding is intentional, it's measured, it's strategic. Sometimes the best response is no response. Other times, it's waiting until the heat of the moment has passed and then delivering your words with precision when they can't be twisted or used against you. That's not weakness, that's warfare. Mastering self-control also means mastering the art of patience. You don't need to win in the next 5 seconds. You can win in 5 hours, 5 days, or 5 months. Sometimes your victory comes in the form of showing the world that you are untouchable, not by fighting every battle, but by choosing only the ones worth your time. Every time you react to something small, you're telling people you're available for every little fight. And if you're always available, you'll always be exhausted. But when you're selective, when you show people that not everything deserves your energy, you conserve your strength for what actually matters. So yes, mastering self-control is rare because it's not about the other person. It's about mastering you. It's about building the discipline to pause, to think, to breathe, to hold, to let go. It's about resisting the urge to give away your power for the short-term satisfaction of a comeback. It's about choosing the long game, where your peace, your dignity, and your power stay in your hands, no matter who tries to take them. And when you reach that point, you're no longer just strong, you're unshakable. Every time you choose not to react, you're protecting something far more valuable than winning an argument. You're protecting your dignity. Dignity isn't about what you say when the world is watching. It's about how you carry yourself when no one's there to defend you. When someone tries to provoke you and you refuse to engage, you're telling them without words, you can't touch my self-respect. Because your worth isn't determined by their approval or their insult. It's determined by how you treat yourself in that moment. And protecting your dignity means protecting your peace of mind, The more you let people pull you into their chaos, the more you chip away at your own mental clarity. But when you hold back, when you keep your composure, you stay in control of your energy. You're not scattering it across petty battles. You're keeping it where it belongs, on the things that actually matter. That's how you walk away from a confrontation without feeling drained, without feeling defeated, and without losing a single piece of who you are. Because your dignity is your armor, and the moment you react without thinking, you take it off and hand it over. Keep it on every single time. Walking away without engaging is not surrender, it's strategy. You have to understand that not every battle is worth your presence, and not every insult deserves your attention. The loudest victories are not always the ones people can see. Some of the most powerful wins happen in complete silence. When you remove yourself from the fight, you strip the other person of their stage. You take away their audience, their momentum, their ability to keep the conflict alive. And the best part, you walk away with all your energy intact while they're left swinging at the air, frustrated because their punches never landed. That's not running, that's choosing the battlefield. And when you choose the battlefield, you choose the outcome. You decide where your energy goes, and you make it clear that you're not someone who can be dragged into every storm. Sometimes the real victory is in leaving the other person standing in the middle of the chaos they created, while you're already miles ahead, untouchable and at peace. They're counting on you to lose control. That's the whole play. They throw the insult, they push the button, they poke at your insecurities, all because they're betting you'll take the bait. They want to see you explode, because the moment you do, they win. You've just handed them proof that they can control you. But when you refuse to give them that satisfaction, you flip the script, you break their rhythm, you force them into unfamiliar territory where they can't predict your next move. And here's the thing, people who rely on provoking others hate uncertainty. They don't know what to do when their trigger fails. It shakes their confidence, it makes them uncomfortable, and it exposes the weakness behind their aggression. When you stay calm, when you look them in the eye and remain unmoved, you send a message that cuts deeper than any words ever could. You can try, but you can't reach me. And that realization is far more devastating to them than any reaction you could give. Peace is your shield. And I'm not talking about the kind of peace that's fragile, the kind that breaks the moment someone raises their voice or throws an insult your way. I'm talking about the kind of peace that is built brick by brick, forged through self-discipline, awareness, and an unshakable understanding of who you are. When you have that kind of peace, you become untouchable, because no matter what someone says, no matter what they do, you don't allow their chaos to infect your mind. You hold your ground, you keep your center, and in a world where everyone is looking for a reaction, that kind of stability is rare. It's power in its purest form. Think about it. Most people's emotions are like an open door. Anyone can walk in and leave a mess. Someone says something cruel, and they let it ruin their whole day. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and they're still talking about it hours later. They've left the door wide open, and every negative thing that passes by has free access to their mind. But when you carry peace as your shield, that door stays locked. You decide who and what gets in. You decide which words matter and which ones die before they even reach you. Peace isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about not letting conflict control you. It's the difference between walking through a storm and becoming the storm. People think being calm means being passive, that if you don't react, you're letting others get away with something. But calmness doesn't mean you're not aware. It doesn't mean you're not strong. It means you're smart enough to protect your energy, to choose your battles, to know that not every war is worth fighting. Because the truth is, Every time you react to something small, you're telling the world you can be pulled away from your path by something insignificant. And that's not strength, that's vulnerability. When you make peace your shield, you stop letting external forces dictate your internal state. And that's when you start to see how much control you truly have. No one can make you angry without your permission. No one can make you upset unless you allow it. You may not control their actions, but you always control your response. That's why people who have mastered this kind of peace appear almost untouchable. They refuse to give anyone else the authority over their emotional state. I've been in rooms where tempers were flying, voices were raised, and everyone was trying to dominate the conversation. The person who walked out with the most respect wasn't the one who yelled the loudest. It was the one who stayed calm, who spoke with intention, who didn't get swept up in the chaos. You see, people instinctively trust the steady hand in the storm. They lean toward the person who doesn't lose their balance when things get rough. That's why peace is such an advantage not just in conflict, but in life. It draws people to you. It makes you a leader without you having to announce it. And let me tell you something about peace. It's not free. You have to fight for it. You have to guard it. You have to build it through daily habits, because the world will constantly test it. Every single day, someone will try to chip away at it. A rude comment, a passive-aggressive jab, a betrayal, a misunderstanding. If you're not intentional about protecting your peace, those moments will eat away at you until there's nothing left. That's why peace as a shield isn't just a mindset, it's a discipline. It's choosing over and over again to respond from strength instead of reacting from weakness. One of the most powerful things I've learned is that when you hold on to your peace, you become impossible to manipulate. And that terrifies people who are used to getting reactions out of others. They thrive on pulling you into their emotional mess because if you're down in the mud with them, they don't have to face themselves. But if you stay calm, if you refuse to play their game, you force them to confront their own reflection. And that's a mirror most people don't want to look into. There's also something deeply strategic about using peace as a shield. It gives you time. When you're calm, you can see the bigger picture. You can analyze, assess, and decide the best move without the fog of emotion clouding your judgment. You're no longer reacting to the moment, you're responding to the situation with clarity. That's how you win, not by being the fastest to strike, but by being the one who waits until the strike matters. I remember once being in a negotiation where the other side tried to throw me off with sarcasm and little digs, hoping I'd get defensive. If I had reacted, I would have lost leverage instantly. Instead, I kept my composure, listened, and spoke only when I had something strategic to say. By the end of that meeting, they were the ones scrambling to explain themselves, while I walked out with exactly what I wanted. That's the thing about peace. It's not just about keeping calm for the sake of your emotions. It's about positioning yourself to win in the long run. People will misinterpret your peace. They'll think you don't care. They'll assume you're unaffected. Let them. You're not here to convince anyone of how strong you are. You're here to know it for yourself. The irony is, the people who assume you're weak because you don't react are the same people who will eventually realize they can't move you, and that realization will hit them harder than anything you could have said in the heat of the moment. Peace also has this incredible way of exposing people's true intentions. When you stay calm, when you don't feed the fire, you see exactly who's there to resolve the issue and who's there just to provoke. The truth comes out when the drama doesn't get the reaction it's looking for. You'll start to notice how many situations die on their own when you don't give them oxygen. But here's the most important thing about peace: it's contagious. When you carry it consistently, people around you start to match your energy. You change the temperature in the room without even trying. You lead not by force, but by example, and that's a far more effective way to influence people than shouting them into agreement. Now, don't mistake peace for inaction. Peace doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose when and how to take action in a way that protects your energy and achieves your goal. It means you set boundaries without drama. You remove yourself from toxic environments without a scene. You end conversations without burning bridges unless you choose to. Peace gives you options, and options are freedom. Your peace is your shield, but it's also your responsibility. You can't wait for the world to hand it to you, because it won't. The world will try to take it from you at every opportunity. You have to decide that no one, not a stranger, not a coworker, not a friend, not even family, has the right to disturb it without your consent. Once you make that decision and stick to it, everything changes. Because here's the truth: the one who can remain calm when everyone else is losing control is the one who wins. Not just the fight, but the room, the respect, and the long game. Peace is not the absence of power. Peace is the presence of power under control. And once you learn to use it as your shield, nothing and no one can truly touch you. Your reputation is built in the moments when no one thinks you're paying attention, especially in the moments when someone tries to provoke you. People watch how you carry yourself under pressure. They notice whether you explode at the smallest slight or whether you stand tall, unmoved. Every time you refuse to take the bait, you're showing the world you can't be rattled. That's how trust is built. That's how respect is earned. It's not about being feared because you lash out. It's about being respected because you don't have to. You set the tone for how people treat you by how you treat yourself in those moments. If you're quick to anger, people will know they can get to you. But if you hold your ground, if you stay calm no matter how hard they try to shake you, you start to develop a presence. People begin to see you as someone who can't be manipulated, someone who won't get dragged into petty games. That presence follows you everywhere, into the workplace, into your relationships, into every room you walk into. And once people see you as unshakable, they stop trying to test you because they already know the outcome. The calm person in chaos always wins because they're the one who can still think clearly when everyone else is falling apart. In a heated moment, most people get swept away by emotion. They react without thinking, say things they can't take back, make decisions they'll regret. But the one who stays grounded, who keeps their composure, holds all the power. While others are busy losing control, they're calculating, observing, positioning themselves for the best possible outcome. Chaos is a distraction, and the calm person refuses to be distracted. They know that storms eventually pass, but what you do in the middle of them can change everything. When you remain steady in the face of conflict, you see opportunities others miss, you make choices others are too clouded to make, and you come out ahead not because you were the loudest, but because you were the most deliberate. And that's why in every conflict, in every negotiation, in every test life throws at you, the one who can keep their cool will always walk away with the win. At the end of the day, it's not the person who shouts the loudest, throws the hardest punch, or gets the last word who holds the real power. It's the one who refuses to give their power away in the first place. Every time you choose not to react when someone hurts you, you're making a decision to protect your dignity, your peace, and your energy. You're proving to yourself and to the world that no one controls you but you. That kind of strength isn't built in a day. It's built in every small moment, when you take a breath instead of taking the bait, when you walk away instead of being pulled in, when you choose your response instead of letting your emotions choose it for you. And the more you practice it, the more unshakable you become. Because, in the end, the strongest person in the room is never the one who loses control, it's the one who doesn't need to.